Good afternoon, my name is Olga Atamanova, and I want to thank everybody who joins us here in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. It's year 9 of the war and day 320 of the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people, and now we will be talking about the situation in our capital. Joining us online is Mykola Povoroznyk, first deputy head of Kyiv Municipal State Administration. Mr. Mykola, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Mr. Mykola, let's start our conversation with greeting you and all the Ukrainians with the fact that the capital of our Ukraine was recognized as the best city of the world by the British issue Resonance. Yes, my greetings. So let's start with how the holidays passed in the capital. Well, you see now, without exaggeration, the attention to Kiev, the attention to Ukraine is rather intense, and Kiev got its nominations. And I would like to mention also that the New Year tree, around which there were a lot of disputes, either we should install it or we should not, what it should be looking like, it was recognized as one of the top 5 New Year trees of the world. So we have something to take pride in besides what I've said. So the capitals passed in more or less quiet manner. They were not different from other 300 days of the full-scale invasion, full-scale war. The martial law, the curfew is still in place. The transport was operated under the same regime as during other weekdays or weekends, so no other documented accidents. Well, you just remember we had some alternatively gifted people who were launching fireworks, but the police already evaluated their actions. But in general, everything was quiet and calm. Mr. Mykola, let's talk about the condition of our critical infrastructure. We all noticed that the situation with the power shutdowns got a little bit better. We all had an opportunity to celebrate the holidays. What's the situation as of now? We have to understand what are the circumstances everything is happening in. Talking about the New Year holidays and the Christmas holidays, there was a number of factors which influenced this easing with the power shutdowns. First of all, it's the warm weather, and secondly, some people left, and during this weekend regime, it's only industrial infrastructure that was operating, and we managed to pass this period almost without the shutdowns. Within the last couple of days, taking into account the freezing temperatures and the working days, we got the power shutdowns back. I don't want to call them either scheduled or emergency, but there is certain deficit of the electric power in the grid, so we're still implementing the schedules of shutdowns. As of this morning, around 200,000 consumers were without power. As to the water and heat supply, everything works under normal regime, in normal mode, save for a couple of apartment blocks where, when the power is being shut down, the supply of water and heat also stops. In general, everything works in normal mode. The transport is circulating, the transport is operating, the water and heat is being supplied to the households. Some experts say that there is a protective umbrella being prepared for the capital, and in February the capital already may be protected against these blackouts, against power shutdowns. We will be able to avoid it. Can you give us a couple of comments on that? Well, yeah, that's also a number of factors, and first of all is the preparation of the system itself. We keep repairing it, we modernize it. I would even say we modernize our power grid. But talking about the umbrella, first of all, our hopes are all invested in the work of the air defense forces. because the last attacks, they show that we can quite effectively repel them without some very substantial damage for our power grid. Talking about the operation of transport in the capital, well, we understand about the subway that it was working in the same mode as to the electric transport. What are the changes planned, or everything will remain as it is? Well, for the time being, we will keep working in the same mode. Now, no trams or trolley buses work in the capital. We were still discussing the issue of resuming the operation of the tram network, but the resolution will be taken after the consultation with the power technicians, so that if we already launched the trams, their operation shouldn't stop during shutdowns. As to your estimates how the subway and the buses can satisfy the needs of the population, do we feel any lack of capacity, of capability? Yeah, it's quite sensible already. If we take, for example, the trams, there is a speed tram to Borshakivka, which fulfill the function of metro, and we cannot fully replace them with buses. And we have a limited resource of buses. It's around 500 of them working all around Kiev, so we cannot satisfy the needs of the consumers in full. But we will orient, first of all, at the availability or deficit of electric power when we talk about the relaunching of electric transport. Mr. Mykola, the second half year of educational year started for our kids. Did many educational institutions switch to offline mode starting with the new year, or they remain working, they keep working in the same mode? I want to remind you that our school recess is until January 27. When our children went on holidays, around 30% students were studying online, and I hope that the new half a year will be in the same mode. I think, dear colleagues, your questions. Natalia Movchanova, Ukrinform. Good afternoon. My question is as follows. The Ministry of Health announced that there is a critical need for the healthcare, that the critical need of the healthcare institutions with generators is already covered. I would like to know if the communal, if the municipal healthcare institutions are still in need of generators, and how the municipal authorities will solve this issue. And also, it was reported that 43 boiler rooms were equipped with these generators. And do you have any plans on installing more generators for the boiler rooms? Well, I'll start with the last question. Thank you for your question. We gradually equip the boiler rooms with the generators where it's possible, because we have the boiler rooms with different capacities. If there isn't opportunity to equip a boiler room with the generators, we do so. We procured a couple recently at cost of the municipal budget, and we continue this work. Talking about the medical institutions, that work was begun maybe 5 years ago, and practically as of today, almost all of the hospitals are equipped with generators. Just last week, we equipped the emergency medical system with generators. It's not like equipment, but I would rather say re-equipment, because all of the healthcare institutions are now equipped with generators. I would also like to mention that now we're talking about the critical infrastructure in the same way in the hospitals, which are the installations of critical infrastructure, and the generators, they feed the critically important equipment in the hospitals. Mr. Mykola, we have one last question, and we're letting you go. Just another question. Since we have this situation with the electric power, people start buying generators and power banks and batteries. All of them will be disposed of further on. Is there a plan for some centralized turning in of such things so they can get processed, and people also procure a lot of one-time use gas bottles, and how to utilize them in the city? Well, really, thank you for this question. This issue poses a certain problem. For the time being, it was brought up by the utility service personnel. Yes, the gas bottles are being disposed of along with the regular garbage, and during their utilization, there is a potential for explosion for them, and there are more than 200 spots around the city, and people practically know where such spots are for utilization of batteries, for utilization of relevant light diode lamps, LED lamps. And taking this opportunity, I would like to ask everybody to dispose of this kind of waste at those specific spots where the utility service personnel will utilize them in a proper manner, because the power bank is no different from any other battery, and we're all used to not throwing them into regular garbage, but to utilize them at some specific spots. And the same situation is with the gas bottles. Thank you very much, Mr. Mykola. Thank you for joining us. I'm reminding you, joining us was Mykola Povoroznyk, the first deputy head of Kyiv Municipal State Administration. Dear colleagues, our next briefing is at 14:30. Joining us will be Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of Melitopol. So bear with us, trust in our armed forces, and glory to Ukraine.